streaming us. Thank you.
Quick, just administrative item. I talked to Lawrence Green this morning, and he should be joining us at the next meeting. Speaking of that, but yeah, appreciate everybody joining today. Just pulled up the agenda here, and anyway, yeah, not surprising attendance. It's that time of year, so appreciate everybody joining. I think to kick it off, we'll have an update from Dale from the city of Charleston's perspective. Looks like Dan just joined us. And then, next two items will be update from the finance working group coming from Cash, and then the communications working group coming from Susan. Hopefully everybody's taking a moment to look at that PDF, which will be up for approval today and to get uploaded. And so with that said, I'm going to kick it over to Dale.
Great, thank you. Hey, good. Just a little housekeeping. I had heard from Councilmember Seekings last evening that he had a conflict this morning that popped up, so he will not be joining, but just thought I'd share that. So just going to give you an update on some things that are underway regarding the 3x3 and related items. So the 3x3, the feasibility study recommendation is, as you know, being reviewed by headquarters right now, the Army Corps headquarters. That process is working along. It's under review. They have to achieve concurrence from a number of other federal entities, and that's part of this process, and that seems to be moving. The chief of engineers, who will sign the report after he reviews it, or should sign the report after he reviews it, has a date of May 24th to do that. That seems to be the target date to sign it, and once he would sign it, it would then be distributed to the authorization committees in the U.S. Congress, in the House and the Senate, as well as to the White House Office of Management and Budget. That's how the internal workings of Washington gets projects funded, authorized and appropriated. Be aware that the city, Kaylin and I, and other city staff are in touch with our congressional delegation, Congresswoman Mace, Congressman Clyburn, Senator Scott, and Senator Graham, as well as some others, to say, once the chief signs the report, let's be sure to secure an authorization and an appropriation to be able to move into PED. So that's just for doing our due diligence there. So that's that. You recall in a previous meeting, we discussed legislation that was being, that had been introduced in the Congress called the Shores Act. This is pretty robust legislation that would change the way the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers goes about its feasibility, design and engineering of projects. This would apply to all 4 or 5 types of projects the Army Corps of Engineers does. Storm surge reduction is one of those 5. This would apply, if this legislation were adopted, it would apply to the Army Corps project here. It's a wonderful improvement of how the Army Corps would be able to do things. They are limited right now due to federal policy, legislation, as well as regulatory guidance from doing certain things. This would change that. So the Army Corps could consider stormwater management, could consider various nature-based features in different ways within their projects. So it's a pretty important piece of legislation. I spoke with one of the key staff members in the House who is working on this from one of the sponsors, and the intention is that the Water Resources Development Act, which comes up generally every 2 years, that will be the vehicle for the authorization for our 3x3 move into PED process. The Shores Act is intended to be introduced or be part of what's called the committee mark, which means the legislation that gets introduced, the starting legislation that would get introduced for WRDA. So for internal politics, it's best to have something in the committee mark than to have to add something as an amendment to the committee mark. The committee mark is the initial legislation. So they're moving forward. They expect it to be part of the Senate version 2. So that's moving along. No promises, but I just thought I'd update you on that. And again, if we would have that legislation in place before or as we start PED, if and as we start PED, that would be that would create a lot of flexibility to do some of the things we know we need to do. So that's great. Just an update regarding this sort of nature-based features. I mentioned last time that the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, so the National Academies, pretty consequential group of folks. They've established this committee on benefits, applications, and opportunities of natural infrastructure, typical government jargon, sponsored by the Army Corps of Engineers with the National Academies. They're kicking off a set of efforts to develop policy recommendations for that. They're having a kickoff workshop with this committee in mid-May, and I have been asked to be a panelist on that. And I think it's because we are, we as a city and we with the Army Corps here in the Charleston district, we've said we want to do more with this as we move forward with our project. So that's an important development. The National Academies is not an inconsequential organization, so look forward to maybe helping with them to develop recommendations for how we would, in addition to the SHORE Act, how we would expand the opportunities for the Corps to do better or to update their procedures. The water plan procurement, as you may know, is out. It's open until May 5th. We anticipate a number of responses for that. I can tell by calls we're getting and calls I cannot take because of conflict of interest on this. When a procurement is open, the city managers of this go into a quiet period where you just don't talk about this, and you can see that happening. So we anticipate a lot of good responses. We'll see what happens. Once the responses come in by May 5th, there will be a selection committee appointed by the mayor to review these and then to make a recommendation on which team to take on board. That should occur, I would hope, in June, May and June. And we should, all things going well, we would be able to have a water team in place, consultant in place by July, and then start to work as soon as possible. One of the fascinating things that I keep uncovering is Charleston has a lot of attention on it. For a variety of reasons. We think it's because we're, as I say, we're in the ring, we're fighting, we're trying to do some things on flood risk mitigation and climate adaptation here. So people take notice. One organization called Woodwell, which is actually the new name for the Woods Hole Research Center. So for all of you in the science world, Woods Hole is top 3 or top 4 organizations looking at climate science and hydrology. It's up in Massachusetts on Cape Cod. It's fantastic. They contacted us and offered to do some work for us on long-term modeling. They will do this at no cost. And Caitlin and I, we've spoken with them, and it's like, yeah, no, there's a hook. There has to be a hook, but there isn't. We'll have to provide them with some data. I think we already have the data. So it's wonderful. And what I intend to do is to hold off on that research until the water plan team is in place, and then link their long-term research with the near-term work of the water plan team so that we have a more comprehensive picture. So try to make that integrate well so that, whatever, it works better that way. So that's a fascinating and important development. And we're delighted that they want to do that with us. Another project that the city has been working on is a project with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Association, and Deltaris USA. Deltaris is the large Dutch nonprofit think tank on a community flood planning tool. It is a pilot. They are piloting here with us, and eventually the pilot would be once it's perfected, the tool would be distributed across the US. This project is nearing its end, first phase of it. The project managers will be here in the last week of May. and they will deliver a briefing to city council during the city council meeting that week on this tool. I'm going to suggest a few of you to come to a more detailed workshop on this, a half a day thing or a couple hour thing earlier that week. So we'll go forward with that. But this tool is developing and it's quite interesting. So it's a tool that we'll be able to use in various planning exercises, but it's also a tool pretty cool that will be distributed around the US, and we can say, yeah, it was piloted here with us. That's nice. One of the recommendations from you all, from the 3x3 committee a while back was, hey, the city should try to communicate more and do more. Explain this process, the 3x3 process, and where we are with it, but also some of the other things like the water plan. Kate and I have worked with the Neighborhood Services Division of the city. They have sent an email out to all of the neighborhood associations, say, hey, if you would like us to come and brief you on what's going on with this, we'll show up at your meeting. We can do it virtual, we can come in person. That invitation or that opportunity was distributed to the neighborhood associations 2 or 3 weeks ago. A few folks have said, yeah, that would be great, maybe in the fall because of the summer's coming and all those things, but other folks have said soon, that's okay. So we will do that. And once I get firm dates for that, I will work with Haygood or a number of you to see if one of you want to join me or Kate on at that meeting. It's up to you. You could talk about what the 3x3 committee is doing and has done and is doing and will continue to do. But this is just a set of communications vis-a-vis the neighborhood associations. One other thing that we are doing is we have a summer intern coming on board with us. We put out a notice 4 to 6 weeks ago, probably had 40 different applications, probably 40% of them not from Charleston. So again, people were watching. We have identified an awesome candidate from the College of Charleston to come help us. And she is going to work on us with a communication strategy on all these flood risk issues and also help us update the city's flooding and sea level rise strategy. So we're working on these things. I hear you, so to speak. We're trying to do these, trying to implement some of your recommendations. Then 2 final items. One is at the next meeting, we will have the next 3x3 meeting. We will have the Deputy Chief Resilience Officer from the city of Norfolk come onto the call and brief you all as to where they are in PED with the Army Corps on their project. So the gentleman's name is Kyle Spencer, and I've known Kyle for a decade. Anyway, he's agreed to come on and brief you all. And then in future meetings over the summer and the fall, we will have folks from Galveston or New York to come brief you all on where they are in the design and engineering processes and what kind of things they're hearing and learning and doing with the Army Corps, just as an information thing. And then the final item, I just want to ask Cashin to just mention the webinar that Historic Charleston is putting on this afternoon. I would encourage all of you, if you can, to listen. The speaker is an amazingly brilliant expert on things, flood risk and flood impacts for community-wide. So we often think of flood impacts, hey, what does it mean for my house? Or what does it mean for my street? And she takes this issue from a different perspective. What does it mean for the community? What does it mean for various segments of the populace within a community? And it's pretty important information. She's a brilliant speaker. She is well known in Congress, but she's from the Wharton Risk Center at the University of Pennsylvania, which, as you know, is one of the Ivy League schools that is just an amazing resource. And so, Kasha, do you want to say something, or did I just mow it down for you? Sorry.
I think you covered it, but I sent out a link to everybody, I don't know, last week or the week before, with an invitation. And if you need that link again, just let me know and I'll send it to you. We're excited about this and we're grateful to Dale for connecting us with Carolyn.
Yeah, great. I'm sorry, Cashin. I was excited to tell you how important this would be good for everyone. So it's good medicine, so to speak. Cast for us all. Anyway, that's all I had. Thank you.
Wow.
Well, thank y'all. We have a couple minutes for Q&A, not a ton, because obviously we want to get into the finance working group language recommendation, as well as the communications group piece update piece for approval. There we go. So with that said, any questions or comments to Dale's update with regards to the city? All right, not hearing any, we will move forward to
Bob just raised his hand.
Oh, Bob, hey,
Sure.
go for it.
Real quick question for Dale. Hey, Dale, beyond the intern, I'm sorry. Beyond the intern edition, any plans for additional staffing to help out your effort?
So the city, so I'm new to the city processes. I understand that the budget season will kick off real soon, and that is where we will make applications, sort of beg for additional staff or resources. So again, I need to work with the mayor and the budget office to see there. I do think we need to ponder how else we're doing this. You know, we have the floodplain manager position in the city. It's in the stormwater department, but we've talked about reorienting that position and the technician that comes along with that to us and with us. It's a very important position. It's been empty for 7 months, 8 months. It is it's disturbing. It is not because the city isn't trying to recruit someone. We have interviewed folks. I have interviewed a number of folks along with Matt Fountain's team, and people just don't accept the job, or they accept the job and they have then later withdrawn. And I think it's a reflection not on the city, it's a reflection of the labor market that we're operating in right now. So it's a shame. It's an important piece of our work, but we're missing. And the floodplain technician that's there and Matt's team are doing the best they can, but you know, it's tricky. So Bob, the question is I need to work with the mayor to see what's possible to get additional resources here. It's very clear that if we get into the PED phase next year, we're going to need some additional staff. And again, the consultant team hired for the water plan could be staff augmentation. So that's one way to skin that cat. But you know, do we need someone in-house? That's a discussion that I would first have to have with the mayor and then go from there. But it is clear if we're going to jump into this, we do need additional hands on deck.
Thank you, Dale. Let's see, Bob, does that get you taken care of?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my internet's going in and out. Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks, Dale.
Good deal. Well, Cashin, please go ahead with the finance working group language recommendation for the additional water plan funding.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. The finance working group, which includes myself, Jordy, Bob, Dan, and Doug, have prepared a language and motion that we approved actually by email. Oh, thank you, Kaylin. That's helpful. As Dale pointed out, the city's RFP is open right now for the water plan. It closes May 5th. If you did look at the RFP, there are some funding amounts, or some funding indications for whoever is awarded the contract above and beyond what the city has already allocated to the water plan. And we're super grateful that City Council heeded our advice and included funding in the fiscal year 22 budget for the water plan. But in order to ensure that it is super robust and comprehensive and done in a timely manner, I think we can all agree that some additional funding support is needed. And I don't, since it's up on the screen, I don't know that I need to read it, but I'm happy to read it to y'all if you want. But essentially, it asks City Council in the second tranche of ARPA funding, which is expected in May, that the city ought to allocate an additional $500,000 to the water plan. And we felt that it was appropriate to use this money in this way because it's one-time money used for a one-time project, not a recurring budget item. So we submit this language on additional funding to you all, and ultimately, if the group agrees, then we would like to present this to City Council and probably the Budget Ad Hoc Committee as well. I'm happy to answer any.
Hey, Cashin, and for the group, a suggestion. Wondering if we
I lost you, Bob. You cut out
okay.
for, sorry.
Back on or no?
Yes.
Am I back on? No?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about this ancient computer I'm on. Just wondering if we don't connect the dots to the prior discussion and put in language more explicit about, you know, some of these funds would be directed either.
I've lost Bob again.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll put it in the chat
put
box.
it in
Maybe
the-
helpful
Yeah,
if you're
that sounds good.
having internet connectivity issues. Sometimes if you turn your video off, it may at least we may be able to grab your audio. Give that a go.
How's that? Does that help?
Yep.
Thanks. The suggestion was to connect the dots to the prior discussion and put in language that more explicitly suggests that some of those dollars could go to staffing, either internal or consultative. I guess it's implied, but if we want to push for additional resources for Dale, this might be a mechanism to do that.
Bob, run through that one more time. This is Hagen. I just want to make sure I got the detail there.
Sure. Sorry about these issues. Suggestion was to put in language more explicitly suggesting that some of these additional dollars be directed at human resources, staffing for Dale, or
We lost you again.
thanks.
Yeah. You know,
Okay.
I appreciate where you're coming from on this, Bob. It's typically, and if I'm understanding you right, I think it's typically the sort of the regular practice is to fund staff positions that are long-term staff positions through the regular budget, not with one-time money. You know, I would defer to Amy and her team in the city's finance department on that. But that is in my experience, at least, that is typically how staff positions are funded.
So let me just add in here. So the RFP that's out for the water plan has two sides to it. One is the water plan work, and I very much appreciate you all supporting making a recommendation to City Council and to the other folks in the city who control the purse strings to fund the water plan robustly. I think it's needed, and I think we'll get a more operational plan if we have those resources. The other component of the water plan, you may recall me saying, if there's an owner's agent part of this, that the city could fund staff augmentation or support for work in PED, pre-PED or PED, some of the design work. And that can be, we could we could use the same team if we chose to use, if we would choose to use the same team to help us do some design and engineering in advance of PED or during PED. And that can be them doing the work and us vetting it, and then negotiating with the Corps, co-designing with the Corps. Another way through this type of process is what's called staff augmentation, meaning that we could procure hours from someone in that consultant team, and they would actually work with the resilience office or the stormwater office or the public services office on those various components. So the water plan procurement has this other side to it that would enable what Bob is suggesting without creating a permanent position for the city. If you would want to recommend a permanent position to support these efforts, that would then be beyond that vehicle in the water plan. So be aware that I've tried to anticipate with water plan procurement some of this other staff augmentation, staff support needed, expertise needed. But if it's a permanent position, that runs through the normal city and governance and budgeting processes and HR processes.
Kaylin, with that in mind, what is our timing, or with this conversation in mind, what does our timing look like from the standpoint of just getting this in front of City Council to make the formal recommendation?
So a recommendation would be, I mean, I think, and per your conversations, Dale, you had with Amy, I think sometime in May, the budget ad hoc committee would be meeting. And I think the recommendation would be that Dale could present, since there's not a public input opportunity for those meetings, Dale could, on behalf, present this recommendation to the budget ad hoc committee, to the city council, to the folks on the committee, and then that would be brought up at the next city council meeting following the budget ad hoc. So probably in the next May to early June timeframe. And then separately, I think it would make sense if the committee would want to have a separate recommendation to council during budget season about, staffing capacity, permanent positions. That's where that would probably be appropriate.
Sure. And we can expand on our the prior staffing recommendation as well. Okay, that makes sense. So this doesn't, I mean, the reason I asked that is does this need to, as written, it's up for approval today, in order to be presented to the budget ad hoc committee, does that go on a docket or information delivery to those budget ad hoc committee members?
So for action today, you just need to have a motion to have approval by the committee, and then we could just submit it as we did the other recommendations, put it on a document, share it with them prior to the meeting, that they're able to see that, give the verbal presentation at the budget ad hoc, and then you or a designee at the city council meeting.
Great, thank you. A good deal. Well, Bob, with regards to your point earlier, what are your thoughts there about getting this approved and then reinforcing the staffing recommendation at the upcoming meeting prior to the budget?
I think that's a good approach, and I don't know if an edit is needed given the discussion we've had.
Sounds good. Understood. Well,
I move we approve the wording as it is.
Second.
Yeah, second. Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right. The ayes. Then I'm going to, just to confirm, I'm going to take that as an aye for approval. Is that correct?
Yep, I think we got
Yes.
enough verbal
Yes.
and digital hands up there, so.
Great, thank you. All right. So moved, so approved. Thank you all very much. Dan, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say I commend all of my subcommittee members on this recommendation, and really want to thank Cashin for chairing this subcommittee on finance. I think this is a great recommendation, and hopefully it will be successful, because I think more resources will make for a better product. So just wanted to let everyone know that I know that the finance committee folks really worked hard on this, and I believe this idea came, I believe, from you, Cashin. So we're very thankful for you giving this some thought.
Yeah, I'll second that. Thank you all very much. And with that, thank you for that, Dan. And with that, move on to Susan with regards to the communication working group's approval for the updated information sheet, which everybody should have received in their, via email, but also it's attached to the calendar invite as well, the PDF document for approval.
So we have two documents, one of which you see already in a graphic proof. That's the short form update that we'd like to, you've already approved the copy, and Dale has kindly vetted it, and Richie, who works with Doug, has put this together, and it's ready to go if you approve it. And I'd like to ask for your approval, and then we can talk about the second document, which is the long form follow-up to our first quote white paper that has been updated now. So if anybody has any questions, we did include a couple of graphs here instead of more photographs because they are dramatic illustrations of flooding. So people who have forgotten that we flood might take a look and see that we still do. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you, Kaylin, for distributing all this.
Thanks, Susan. Any questions by the committee? Dale, I see your hand up. Please go for it.
Yeah, I just want to clarify for everyone that those graphs, those are NOAA graphs. So the NOAA graphs, they're from Doug Marcy, who is a wonderful asset here in Charleston, who works for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So the folks who collect all this data, those are their graphs. So I think it's important to note it's not city graph. It's really smart people graphs.
Are those sourced, Susan? Do we need to,
These are just copies of, it'll look better.
Sure, understood.
Yeah, the resolution is low, but he'll work on that.
So to Dale's point, though, for the two graphs, they are noted as City of Charleston. So I guess your point, Dale, is it needs to be noted that they're actually NOAA documents.
They're NOAA provided them to us, I want to say in January of this year, anyway, not too long ago. So we should just make sure they're reference property. Again, in the slide that I shared with Susan with these graphs in it, it's noted that they're NOAA graphs, not city graphs. So we just have to properly reference them.
I will credit them on here somewhere,
Thank you.
definitely. Thank you.
All right, well, then I move with the amendment to credit NOAA for the charts that we approve the document as presented.
Second. So all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. So the ayes have it, so approved. Thank you very much, Susan, for all of your, and the rest of the communications working group as well, for all your hard work.
So we need to work on the second document, which is longer, and hopefully everybody has read that. I did send it out, or Kaylin sent it out some weeks ago, and I didn't get any edits or comments, but you now have another chance to contribute if you like. Otherwise, I will ask Richie to put this in a graphic proof form and send it around. I'd like to, if we can approve the copy today, move ahead, because waiting a month to get this out is not a good idea. So, and if you have any changes or questions, shoot.
I just thought, and I know this is a last minute thing, but the reason it came up is because I was just providing a quick email update to Lawrence, and I was looking for a place and actually I sent him, just noting that it was in a draft form, sent him this update. But I noticed in there, and I think this could be, I'd love to get everybody's take on this, adding in even a bullet pointed list of our recommendations to when we presented for approval to council. That was just the one piece of information, I think, as it comes from the 3x3 committee that I think would be helpful to add to this, just because it's something that I wanted to give them an update on. But anyway, you're nodding your head, you know where I'm coming from with that.
Sure. So I can add a sentence about the I think 3 recommendations that we will have done to go to PED and to approve the Rosemont Resilience special study, and now to increase funding for the water plant. Does that do it?
And then we have east side alignment. We talked about Rosemont. We could actually do, Caitlin, could we attach the written list that went to city council as an exhibit to this?
What I can do is, Susan, I'll just circulate over to you that complete document, and then you can pull from those recommendations the top line items.
Okay.
Because it may be we can link it too. It's just depending how this is distributed to folks, that may not be.
Yeah, that gets complicated. I think if we just write a sentence and a half that this is what we've done as a committee, I think that will be clearer for people who are not, involved in the weeds here.
Yeah,
I can
agree, because this is really intended to be, to use for those neighborhood meetings and, different gatherings where the public interest is being discussed, this is being discussed in a public format, to be kind of a resource document for folks to take with them and distribute, on the website and things of that nature. So I think if you put too much of that like in the weeds, then it kind of dilutes it some. So I agree with you, Susan. Just a sentence that kind of says what we've done thus far would suffice.
I will
yeah,
do.
that sounds good.
So
Thank you. Sorry for the last minute ad. It was just something that frankly came up
I
this
think
morning, and
that's a good idea, actually. I think that's great. So can we vote on this with the understanding that I'll add a sentence to that effect?
So moved.
second,
Can I ask 2 questions before we vote?
Yep.
please.
Sort of in the detail and directed to Dale. Hey, Dale, wasn't the final or the most current BCR greater than 11? I thought it was like 11.2.
The optimized TSB BCR that was released in September of 2021 was 10.2, I think 10.3. And then when the Corps of Engineers incorporated moved the line on the east side per the committee's recommendation to protect the port facilities, the Union Pier Terminal and Columbus Terminal, that raised the BCR up to 11.3. And then when the Corps of Engineers, this is all goofy economic stuff, but when the Corps of Engineers revisited their assumptions for costs, they realized that given the inflation in the cost of steel and metal and concrete that we're seeing throughout the economy, they increased the contingency. If you recall, there's a contingency for the financing of this project of 34. There was a contingency of 34%. So, the cost estimate could be changed by up to 34% and not impact the benefit cost analysis of this recommendation. So because of the inflation in materials and labor, the Corps of Engineers increased their contingency from 34% to 36%, which is a smart thing to do. But when you increase that cost contingency, the BCR came down to 10.8. There's too much information for you, but
Gotcha.
that's 10.8 right now.
No, appreciate it. I remembered I had remembered the 11 number. Second quick question. There's reference to the analysis being done in current dollars. Wasn't there an inflation provision built in?
So that contingency is encompassing the possible inflation. I mean, they're using a standard inflation and standard inflator for these costs. And the contingency would cover then any variation in that inflator. And so they've covered that by increasing the contingency.
So is it correct for the document to say it's the analysis was run on current dollars?
Yes, because
should it?
Yes, that's correct. The current dollars when they ran the analysis. That's correct. And they to run that analysis again with the inflation that we've experienced again, they wouldn't run the Army Corps. Most economists would not run a cost analysis on such near-term inflation. They tend to use more standard inflation measurements of at least a year or 2 or 3 of data. They wouldn't run it on the last sort of 8 months, what we've seen in across the sectors.
They'll affect the benefits side of that as well, right? Just to confirm. I mean, both numerator and denominator will change with inflation. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Cool. Sorry to jump in the line of question, Bob. I just wanted to ask that while we're talking about it.
So we're good as it is?
Bob, does that get you taken care of?
I'll defer to Dale. It sounds like there is provision for inflation in
Yes.
the determination. So I'm just not sure that but I think it's something that might be concerning to some folks, looking at this in detail. Is inflation built into the analysis? And I'm still sort of fuzzy on whether it is or it isn't. But that's, that's just me. I'll defer to Dale and you guys.
Yeah, no. So the Army Corps is, when they do their cost estimates, they use current dollars, and they then have as Haywood said, they're assuming that the cost of a truck full of concrete is going to increase over time, and they use the standard sort of inflators for that, right? So that's just what they do going forward, because if we ever get to construction, that truck full of concrete right now is going to be more expensive in 10 years, right? So I mean, we assume that. So they have standard processes for this that are vetted for the entire federal government. So yes, inflation is built in again, and then there's the contingency built in the cost estimate. So that will cover some of that accelerated inflation that we're seeing over the llast 8 months that may not have been incorporated in their cost analysis when they did it, say, last summer. So we're just yes, it's built in, and I'm not worried right now about our cost estimate. The cost is going to change as we go through PED, because we will design things and engineer things differently than we will design and engineer things that will reflect more reality than what was done in the feasibility study. So the cost will change, up or down, we don't know.
So I still suggest that this analysis dollars is perhaps inaccurate. But if I'm the only person on that point, once again, I defer to the group.
No, I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's, I think costs are, particularly for relevant construction materials, are going up across the board. But I don't know that we can, let's see, in today's dollars. Do we have the specific year they provided this cost estimate? Maybe we can replace, because,
$2021, right? That was the last estimate. And they in fact may have run an improved estimate right before they sent the district completed the report, but that would still be based on $21.
well, I'd suggest we change under how long will the wall construction take and how much will it cost. Today, we change today's to in the second sentence, sorry, we change in today's dollars to in 2021 dollars. Because, Bob, your point's a good one. I can, even though Dan's camera's now on mute, as a real estate developer, I can see his eye twitching from here as we talked about construction material inflation. But anyway, point being that it is relevant, but I don't know that we're gonna put a bigger figure on it than what we have right now. So I think we should have to, to Bob, to your point, I think clarify the timing of this estimate.
So I'll take today's out and put 2021 in. And understanding that most of the people who read this are a lay audience, so to speak, and will just want to understand with a broad view that we're talking about around now versus maybe 8 or 10 years from now.
Yeah, and Susan, I could just maybe add, if you just put a publication date on it as well.
Right, good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea.
That was going to be my suggestion, Jordy. Thank you.
Great.
Current dollars with a date on the document, problem solved. Right.
Volume 1, issue 2, huh?
So good deal. So with that discussion, I think, well, actually, let me back up. Are there any other comments or questions? Not hearing any. I think move for approval with the changes of adding a publication date and changing to clarify 2021 cost estimates.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it, so approved.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. We're excited.
And I'll just add, as Dan did for Cashin, just as a member of the communications committee, thank you to Susan a million times over. She has spent a lot of time on this. And as I've mentioned before, clearly her skills are still very strong in the world of writing eloquently. And so thank you for all your hard work. You really produced a great document here.
Thank you, Jordy.
Agreed. Thank you. Well said. Well, good. So I think we're getting close to the hour mark. So just a quick point of clarification, I guess a question for the group for discussion. I don't know, I wanted to bring up potentially meeting in person. Sounds like that would have to be in the George Street public meeting room, which has lots of room for folks to spread out. I'm personally for it. It'll be good to see everybody in person and meet, but just wanted to put that to the group just for general discussion during the last 5 to 10 minutes here of this meeting.
I mean, Kaylin, you took a survey of in-person versus virtual, right?
I did, and not everybody filled it out. Just okay. People are busy. It was really pretty split even. A few folks requested a hybrid. Unfortunately, the city's capacities, as we've just discussed overall, the IT department, they're moving away from hybrid meetings. A lot of city committee meetings are pivoting back to in-person. And then having, unlike pre-COVID, we are doing this option to live stream the meetings on YouTube. I will say too that if we begin to hold these in person, the public can come and sit and watch in person as well. Perhaps it may be, unless we get further direction from the clerk's office, perhaps for this group, it may be good to ponder. I think our May meeting, given that we have Kyle from Norfolk joining us, and he'll obviously be joining us virtually, perhaps it will make sense to do that one virtually and then look to have a summer meeting in person. And I can send out those dates well in advance, and so people can be prepared for their schedules. And just on that point of our next meeting, Dale, the chair, and I have to get together because there's a lot of activity happening at the end of the month with, as Dale mentioned, the Dutch are in town, and so that may conflict with some times when we would have regularly had this. But I'll send out some dates for folks to weigh in on over the next couple of weeks. And then Susan, for your purposes with the communications document, once you have that finalized, send it to me and we'll get it out in the appropriate channels. I will plan for that shorter page. I can send that over to our business and neighborhood services folks to get included in this week's newsletter.
Great.
And I can also send it out to our PIO folks to put it on city website, social media, etc. So I will do that one this week for the update, and then we'll wait for you to send the larger document and we'll do the same thing.
Okay, I was going to ask Dale, do you want some hard copy of the one pager?
Sure. I mean,
Okay.
again, when some of the meetings with the neighborhood associations are virtual right now, you know, I on this latter point, my preference is, you know, given where we are with the pandemic, to do it in person and reserve the right to change it back to virtual, depending on, you know, future conditions. But I tend to prefer meeting with people in person. There's so much nonverbal communication that happens, and it's very important to understand all that. So that's all I'm saying. You know, I would like to do a meeting with you all in person every now and then. I would.
Now,
I like you guys.
as far as the short form document, do you want a bunch of copies in hard copy? Yes?
Yeah, I mean, 20 to 40 will be sufficient. You don't need 1,000, okay?
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you all. Kale and Dale, any other housekeeping items? Appreciate you running through all that, Kale. And I think that's all sounds good and exciting to have our upcoming meeting to get the update from Norfolk. That'll be great.
Yeah, and we'll do then with some of the other projects in PED around the US. I know those folks too, so some of them. So we'll get that. You all be smart on this by the fall, and can be good sparring partners with the Army Corps as we move forward. Thanks.
Great. Well, with that, I think we'll close the meeting. Thank you all very much for all your time, and appreciate everybody's effort today. It's good to get through these handful of approvals, and all very relevant and important, and continue to press forward and look forward to seeing y'all at our upcoming meeting.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.